been a while since I've been in a transmission. But today is the day, our lucky day. Working on a 97 K2500 Suburban. This is Diet. And Diet is experiencing some kind of delayed shifts and a little bit hesitant. And if you manually shift it first through fourth, it seems to be doing okay. So my first thinker in went, okay, we should do shift solenoids and obviously fluid and filter change because we're going to be in there. And then might as well, since we've got 35-inch tires and a 454, might as well just go with a little shift kit, just a mild one, not the big major one. We won't be doing any work inside the pump because we're not pulling the transmission today. So we're just going to do the little holes and springs and all those things. Maybe take out a ball. We're going to go through the instructions, not just think what needs to happen. So let's get to it. So although I do genuinely hope that this helps somebody, oftentimes I record myself doing things like this because it definitely helps with reassembly. So I can kind of come in here and go, okay, I can see this tab on this bolt holding this tube in place, so that's going to be necessary. I can see where my harness comes through to some of these solenoids, so that's important, right? And all that jazz. So I'm gonna pop a couple things apart here and start undoing some screws. Now there's some 8mm bolt heads, there's some 10mm bolt heads, and there's a handful that are different lengths. So I'll try to keep them separate and make a couple notes. You can see this spring here. This is your park or detent spring. So this holds you in gears, and that spring is kind of flexing up, so I need to be aware of that, you know, and all those things. So that is why I do record this. Once again, I preach this quite often. This is a paint can opener, but I keep it in my toolbox for taking connections like that apart, for taking those little inner fender well clips apart, and all that. Now, once again, we are in the vehicle, obviously, and it's kind of funny. I don't think it's possible to ever get a transmission to quit dripping, and it's going to continue to drip until we pretty much put it back together. So I'll just keep dabbing, more or less, because as dirty as I get, I don't actually enjoy transmission fluid dripping on me. Sometimes it's just a given that it's going to happen. All right, the harness is mostly out of the way. I also very often in my mechanic workings videos kind of explain that there's times where I prefer to work on vehicles with wrenches and not use power tools. For this reason, I can oftentimes feel a good or bad thread. I can feel kind of a torque, whether things are going together well or not. And there's all kinds of other advantages to working with hand tools. Now, for someone who doesn't have power tools, they're kind of a must. And they're a great way to start your tool collection if you don't have one. For example, I'm working with a 224 piece Husky set that I actually bought at Home Depot. And I was in there the other day getting some roofing materials, and they were on sale again for $99. I almost bought another set, but I've got so many of them, I figured at this point I probably should just refrain from buying more tool sets. So that's that. I'm just taking anything apart that kind of has anything special. These little spring clips just hold the wire harness in place. If I'm doing anything like that I can to make reference, and then I'm going to start zipping stuff apart. Now, right, wrong, or indifferent, there's a tool that I refer to, or have referred to my whole life, as a Polish impact. I think it's called like a speed handle or something. I think I'm going to grab one of those real quick, because when I'm taking stuff apart, I can still feel my threads, I can feel everything, and that's definitely going to speed up my process. Polish impact. See, there's one I can reference. I need to make sure that this is tight before I take this plate, before I put this plate back on. Perfect windy day to be working on stuff. I'm doing everything I can to control my oil, my mess. So I have my transmission pan directly under the transmission. So for the most part, all of these drips, if they don't get on me, they'll get back into the pan. And then I can put it in my drain receptacle later. Now, I learned a lot at a young age about automotive. I went to a vocational skills center in high school, and not only did I go there, my instructor, his wife was in another state at college, so I worked in the morning at co-op at a tool and die shop, and I'd go to school for a little while, and then I would go to auto shop. Well, my work for the day was done as far as a paycheck went, and my teacher, Mr. Powell, at Ionia Heartland's Center or Institute of Technology. Mr. Powell, his wife, was out of state, so he didn't have any real reason to go home. So we worked on a lot of projects together. And so I've learned a lot by trial and error. I must say that I learned a lot in school, in class. And one of the things that Mr. Powell taught me is that transmission fluid, automatic transmission fluid, is almost more of a detergent than a lubricant. So you may or may not believe me here, but if you're a believer in fuel injector cleaner or sea foam or any other type of additive to clean your oil or fuel system, you probably need to know that automatic transmission fluid does it better. And I am not afraid to put a quart of transmission fluid in my fuel tank, whether diesel or gas. I am not afraid to mix a little extra transmission fluid, a little heavy on the mix side for a 2-stroke application. I am not afraid to put transmission fluid into my engine crankcase. I'm not afraid to dump it right down a carburetor. So it does a lot of cool stuff. Automatic transmission fluid is. So I do believe I have one screw left. This valve body will come down. I also believe that this is probably going to be one of the messiest parts of this job. This is when a lot of the fluid's going to come down and kind of not be very controllable. And also, I need to be aware of the fact that there are check balls in numerous places. And this is important to know because those check balls kind of need to go back into those places, right? Now the kit may or may not come with a couple oversized ones, and it may or may not tell me to omit a couple. Well, I know one time, I think I might even have a video, I think on my 4L60E I had a little series on. I had the pan off, I don't know, 3 or 4 times trying to figure out what I did wrong, and it ended up being that some of the check balls were missing. I think it was 2. 2 check balls were missing. It still went down the road, but it just didn't act right. So that's just something to remember. I'm going to switch gears. Go back to my ratchet, since I'm not worried about speed right now, but more control would be a good thing. Woo. So there's the valve body. And I don't know how much you can see, but I can see some check balls. I see 5, 7 of them. And a little accumulator that I've got to put down there for now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah. Just keep in mind that, you know, nothing I'm doing takes very special tools so far. So if you've ever thought that a transmission's a scary thing, they're really not that bad. Really not bad at all. Gotta keep your work area clean. And so far we've used a 10mm socket, an 8mm socket, and associated drive tools. That's it. So it's probably something that you could easily tackle in your driveway. That's where I'm at. Benefits of looking at some things at different angles. One, two, three, four, 5, 6, 7, 8. There are 8 check balls. And that lonely one there, that one I did not see originally. So we're gonna now check the instructions of the shift kit and see what to do. Alright, this first page is basically just saying that I'm working on a 4L80E, and this says do this if the transmission's apart. I got a little helper. So the first and second steps were that front page where I was installing some different springs in the pump and clearancing a hole in the pump. Those don't apply since the transmission is not out. So step 3 is our first step. And up here in the front, I have to remove a C-clip and pull out the pressure relief valve. So that's what I'm going to do. So I guess first specialty tool, I've got some various snap ring pliers, which don't cost a whole lot. They're well worth having around in the shop. Come in all sorts of shapes and sizes. My buddy Stevosaurus, he'd be saying right now, come on, sweetheart. I think I'm going to start telling it to come on, sweetheart, too. Or I might see if I can find some different snap ring pliers. Come on, sweetheart. Yeah. Got it. So now we'll bring this back to our workbench and see what we got to do for the instructions. I can see up in there, and I have a type 2 pressure relief, not a type 1. So the only difference on the instructions is whether I need the bushing or not. So I do not need it. So I have a new boost valve, I have the new springs that come in the kit, and I have this new washer here. You can see the washer. So that's all assembled, comes with a new clip. So I will put that up in there carefully. Okay. Now I have a feeling this is going to take some force along with my C-clip pliers. Let's see if I can do this. I got an idea. So we are going up with the boost valve, the washer, the springs. Okay. That feels way better. Don't know what was jammed up, but something was. Okay, now I am going to kind of build my own little jack. Alright. By using 3/8 extensions. And I'm working on figuring out what can be wedged, such as this here 2x4 under the extension. Alright, that's looking good so far. And wouldn't you know, I have other C-clip tools. I set my C-clip pliers up wrong, so I'm gonna swap them around real quick. Oh boy, this is gonna be awesome. As soon as it works, it's gonna be awesome. No. The C-clip is in the bore, it's just not in place. There. We have positive engagement. Gee. Step 3 is done. Ugh. Now I have to replace one of these bolts with a stronger bolt. I think it's this one here, which is the pump bolt. Let's see. Way too small. Just right. This is a T40 bolt that's coming out. I actually can't tell you why this has to come out, why they deemed it not strong enough, but I'm just going to go ahead and believe them. Now, just like I've mentioned before, as far as power tools and stuff goes, I like to start the threads by hand to make sure they will actually go in. Honestly, I don't believe that's any stronger. They just stripped out. What the heck? Well, I guess it's tight. I don't like it. Alright, next. Install new cup seals with a 5/16 punch until seated. My 5/16 punch definitely looks like it might be a brake slide bolt that's also 5/16. that is seated. So I've got this plate right here, and it's going to be a relief valve, and I have to use a supplied drill bit and drill a hole right through the valve body right there. Now this is going to get brake cleaned before I put it back together, but there are a lot of shavings. I'm going to shop vac this right now before I go any further. So I assembled the check valve, which the plate was used for a template to drill the hole. And now on the back side of the valve body, we've got to drill another hole. And it says to use an 1/8 inch drill bit first. I actually ended up using a 1/16 and then an 1/8 and then my 3/16. 2 cans of brake clean later, and seems pretty clean. I'm gonna give it another air blow job before I do actually put it back together, but there's that hole. Everything's good and clean. All right, now right here I've got to pop a roll pin out, and over here I've got to pop a roll pin out and replace a couple items as deemed necessary. 93 and up, reuse original springs, and new steel and plug and O-ring is used. And 91, 92 models, you do something different, but this is a 97, okay? Adjusting shift firmness, all models. For slightly firmer, use blue. For even firmer, use inner blue. Oh yeah, outer blue, inner blue, okay? I'm gonna go even firmer because this is a 35-inch tire, big block Chevy. So I'm gonna use the inner blue accumulator spring by itself. All right, these are completed steps. Now, it's pretty easy to say remove these parts and install these parts, but you sometimes need to be a little crafty with how to remove the old parts. All right, keep that tool in mind. Keep a little pilot drill and a screw in mind. All right. Oh yeah, and that's a good punch for installing this little plug in the back. You got to pound that plug in pretty far before you can get the filter, the new spring, and the new plug in place to be able to get that pin back through. As shown, we drill 1/8 inch holes at our A and B locations and a 3/16 hole on our C location. Let's see here. A is that one, B is that one, and C is down here in the corner. Now we are at the assembly process, but we are going to do a couple of things first. We're going to replace our shift solenoids, and then we're going to clean everything very thoroughly. All right, remember, some models had a PCS accumulator. It does not mean that mine does. So, got everything clean. I'm inside this plastic bag. When I'm walking away, I close it. And now it's time to put this back together, same way it came apart. Now it says don't forget to install the relief valve assembly. That came out when the valve body came out. That has to go inside the transmission, and it pushes up against that right there before I get the valve body in place and screwed together. Now everything here is clean. I grabbed me some wheel bearing grease, and I marked all of my check valve holes. There are 8 of those marked there, and having them marked helps with identification, but it also will help during assembly to keep those check balls from rolling away. Okay, I'm gonna do one last little pat down. Okay, just for my own sake while working down here. All right, still got dripped on right in the forehead. Okay, now let's see how many times it's going to take me to get this valve body up in place. I did put a little bit of grease on there, but it don't matter. It still doesn't want to stay. Wouldn't that be amazing? If we get it together all at once, one shot. Holy cow. Little preparations for the win. Haha. Okay, now we have to remember there are these smaller screws that go in here, right? So I'm going to hold that in place and I will surround it. Right now I'm not too worried about where all those brackets came from. I'm more or less concerned with getting the holes filled and being able to tighten them all up. Okay. Whoa, hold on a second. Might have screwed myself up a little bit. Maybe because it's not tight yet. There we go. Woohoo! All right. Remember, we got our little spring clip here with the screws in it. That goes there. That's our little parking pawl / detent for our shifter. I'm liking this so far. Gotta get this tube up in there. Okay, and our little clip. And look at that, I think I forgot that this had to get up in there. Let's see if we can just snake it through. No big deal. Yeehaw. Alright, so I had a clip here, I had a clip there. Okay. A few more bolts. It's right there. So, do that and that. Pop these out. All right. Grab me a 10mm socket again. Get after it with that Polish impact. Now I'm not aware of a torque sequence nor a torque pattern, so I'm kind of just starting in the center, working my way around, doing a little loop. I feel like that is fair enough. I'll probably go back through and just verify that they all made it. Oh. See what I did there? See what I did wrong? I have to pop this tube back out so I can tighten that one. That's the only one I missed, I believe. I could use a wrench. What's the fun in that when you got a Polish impact? Ugh, I just got dripped right in the nose. Apparently I might have gotten dripped in the eye a little bit too, because it's starting to sting a little. That's awesome. It's one of my favorite things is transmission fluid in the eye. Wasn't sure if you were aware of that or not. Okay, there's that. Oof. About the only thing more than transmission fluid in the eye that I like is bolts right in the eye. Good thing I have my glasses on. Of course, you gotta drop the last one on your face. Otherwise it wouldn't be hot rodding, right? Alright. Now, just as a recap, this is my wife's daily driver, 97 K2500 Suburban. It's got a 6-inch super lift, 35-inch Mickey Thompson tires. They're Baja something or others. And it gets a good old, I don't know, 8 miles a gallon. She doesn't have to drive very far for work, and it still beats better than having a truck payment. You can drive this thing like 2,500 miles before you make yourself a truck payment, even with today's fuel prices. So, you know, as far as new vehicles go and buying something to save fuel, I guess you do you. But I'm going to keep on doing me, and I'm going to keep on wrenching on these old vehicles and keep them on the road because it's still cool. It's still cheaper than a vehicle payment. Alright, that's that. We're going to throw the new filter in here. Then we're going to put the clean pan back up in there with some new fluid, and maybe we'll have to take this thing for a test drive. I still don't know if this actually took care of the issue. The issue was kind of a hesitating shift, That's no fun. I want it to be reliable for her. I don't know if you can hear this truck coming or not, but it passes by here about this time every day. That is a blue regular cab short box Chevy. It's a 03 to 05 Silverado, probably just a 5.3. I think he drives it around in third gear. I don't know. But man, I love the sound of that truck. I'm not sure if I mentioned this or not, but all the parts that I got here today were from a company in Grand Rapids, Michigan called Transtar Industries. And if you ever need transmission parts, it's a good chance they have them. Now, I'm not being paid to say this. I don't have no sponsorships, but I do believe in sharing the good news. And I think there's way too many people out there with negative comments about some of the places they've been or the places that they've dealt with. But I don't think there's enough positive. So if you ever need transmission parts, I would suggest calling Transtar. I know there's quite a few locations around Michigan. I'm sure they ship. They're good people. I would say they have way better prices than going to a parts store. I do like to support the local parts stores, you know, when I can. But there's just some times where you need to go to a specialty shop. And I don't think there's any way to get around that. And that's okay. Now that all these bolts are in, I'm going to run around to every other one and get it snugged up. Then I'm going to run around the other ones and snug those up, and then I'm going to run around all of them and snug those up. I'm not squeezing them super tight, just making sure they are seated. I don't want to warp my pan. There's a couple bolts on this transmission that are challenging to get to. But with the right skinny tools, seems like you can get to them all. Well, that's all of them. Now I'm going to go ahead and just touch them all again. Must be that's what these holes in the cross member are for. Alright. Gotta tighten up that heat shield. Take care of some of my tools. Put some fluid in this thing. Fire it up and check my levels. Let's go for a ride. check the fluid level after beating on a little bit, going around the block, because when I took off, it was at the cold, full level. I'd like to just verify that it's, up top. Otherwise, I think we're done here. Appreciate you watching. Hopefully you learned something, maybe what not to do. And, let me know what you're working on. Let me know if you're a Chevy guy, if you'd rather have a Ford or a Dodge or a Toyota or, maybe something else. As much as I'm a Chevy guy, as much as I enjoy having bow ties in the family, I acknowledge that it takes all types to enjoy this